Candace, thank you. It is now officially hurricane season, and FEMA is changing its policy on flood zones, which could cost New Orleans residents thousands in flood insurance costs. Local real estate expert Kelly Guidry has more information for us. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
And I know flood insurance has skyrocketed. First of all, tell us why.
So in April, FEMA released its flood rating 2.0, also known as risk rating 2.0 for its national flood insurance program. What we saw is the private sector has made incremental changes over the years, whereas FEMA's flood policy has remained unchanged in pricing. And so these new set of regulations for insurance prices are going to make up for those years. What we once knew as flood zones A, B, C, and X, the most common ones in our area, those are going away. What we are going to see is a new methodology for variable ratings, which are going to take into consideration distance to flooding source, flooding type, number of stories, building occupancy, construction type, foundation type, as well as any prior claims. There may be some other variables that they'll consider, but those are the main ones. We're also going to see anyone with existing flood policies already in place for primary residences, they're going to increase 18% year over year, whereas any secondary policies already in place are going to see a 25% increase year over year.
Wow. This is just so depressing. So it's pretty drastic across the board then.
It really is. What we're seeing, the FEMA has come out with this national flood insurance program. They're making an expensive swoop all at one time. And it seems that those that are going to be most impacted are those that were once located in what was called preferred flood zone C. So for example, a home that was in preferred rating C, had they opted for a flood policy, they might have paid about $500 a year. That cost for that same policy on that same home is now about $3,500 annually. So the cost has gone up dramatically. One thing that we have seen though is that any of those homeowners who have elevated their homes and their first floor is now off the ground level, they're not going to be as drastic of increases. However, this is going to affect our local residents.
And I was reading through your notes and I saw you could get your policy locked in. Is that accurate? How does that work?
Well, so really what we're suggesting is anyone who has an existing policy in place, don't let it lapse. You want to make sure that you keep that policy because then you're going to be able to lock in those incremental changes of 18% year over year. It's a lot easier to budget for that than to not have a policy in place and go get one now and see that 7-time increase in cost. So that's what we're suggesting. Another thing is FEMA is going to be setting out what the first floor height is. And when they come out with that, they're going to be using a system generated method. If a homeowner disagrees with that height rating, they can contest it. So that's really important for homeowners to know. Also buyers, if they're in the marketplace, if a homeowner has a flood policy that is transferable, that's going to be really appealing moving forward.
Are they all transferable? Which ones are, which ones aren't?
Most of them are transferable. A lot of times what we see is USAA policies have not been transferable because they're more specific to our military and service people. But overall policies are, and you can check with your insurance company to find out whether or not your flood policy is transferable.
And how hard is it for you right now to even sell a house? I'm sure places in flood zones, people probably like the properties, don't even want to look at them.
Well, we're definitely going to see our area slowing down in the coming years, actually, with this increased cost of insurance. We're going to see buyers that are lowering their price points. We're going to see a shift in the type of housing that there's a demand for. So it's really important that if you're in the market searching for a house, partnering up with a local realtor that has connections to knowledgeable lenders. One thing that we suggest at Bayou Region Home Team to our buyers is to make sure that they are shopping for their flood quotes early on in the transaction process.
Right.
It's really important for a buyer to make sure that they know what all these costs look like before they're locked into something and it's too late.
And it might be cheaper to just get your house raised and kind of save some money that way than for it to keep increasing every year.
It may be, and until something is, I guess, enough noise is made and legislation is changed, this is what we're dealing with.
Wow. Thank you so much for your time. This has been depressing, but informational. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.